Good day, strategy gamers, and welcome back to episode 36 of our Let's Play series, Stalingrad to Berlin, War in the East 2. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the air planning phase of turn 19 and the first portion of the ground movement phase of turn 19, probably making our way down to about the Smolensk pocket. So already we can be a little excited because you'll note that we have not skipped over the air planning phase. And in 2 episodes ago, episode 34, we had noted that the weather forecast actually showed that there might be some improvement in the weather conditions where it was not heavy snow or blizzard, and we might be able to actually execute some air operations. So let's take a look at how that actually turned out. Looking at the weather conditions screen, we see for this turn, March 25th, we do still have snow across much of our front lines. And we're starting to get some mud north here of Leningrad. But when we look at the air weather, we see that it's actually just marked as cold, right? So in the air, it's not blizzard or snowfall. And that's a pretty notable improvement. The first time we've seen this so far in the series. So we're actually going to then take the opportunity to, in this turn, start slowly easing our way back into the air war. Looking at the forecast for next turn, we see that that trend actually does continue. And I think this is some heavy rain north near Scandinavia that might be moving down as well. So I'm hoping that by having just cold weather and snow on the ground instead of in the air, it might then result instead in us being able to reduce our operational air losses. But I don't want to commit our entire air army groups right out the gate here in March. Again, they're going to be most useful in the summer months when the front line is much more active and weather conditions allow us to move more quickly, with less attrition as well, I might add. So let's take a look then at what we want to do for our air war. And I think what we're going to start with is we're going to turn on and run recon missions, and we're going to run air superiority missions. So we've actually been having the automated AI air system running since the start of the game. But even with that running, which is just kind of a hands-off way for the AI to help you with everything from moving air groups up to the correct air bases, to moving air groups to the reserve box, it does all of that for you. And I highly suggest having that turned on for newer players to the game and series. Even with that on, you can still customize quite a bit what exactly you're going to do with your air wings. And one of the ways you can do that is by hitting D or going to the Show Air Doctrine screen. And what this is showing us is there's a couple of breakouts. The first that we're on is just pilots, showing you a breakdown of, for each air army, how many pilots do you have per combat purpose of the air group, right? So fighters, fighter bombers, etc. But then you go across the top here, and then these are the different types of air missions that you can execute in the air planning phase. Ground support's one of the more common ones, and we've had that turned off. And we're going to keep ground support turned off until we get a better feel for how the weather is improving. And really, I want to save most of the assets you would use in ground support for the summer months where they can be much more effective and hopefully counter what I will presume will happen will be a buildup of German armor. Bomb City, we're not going to necessarily go into, again, committing bombers to hitting more strategic assets behind the German lines isn't something I want to start with. Ground attack, we're also going to leave off because we're not going to try to attack specific ground installations or fortified hexes, etc. Recon, we will actually execute. Now, I've already gone through and changed my settings here because it can be a little repetitive clicking through all of these, but let me walk you through kind of left to right some of the options you have. So the first is what altitude you want these to fly at. And 9,000 is a pretty good altitude to be flying for recon, and you can really get into some advanced methods of min-maxing this, and maybe towards the end of the series we'll eventually get to understanding some of those. The ones that I want us to focus on, though, are min-weather, which stands for minimum weather for this air group to fly, intensity, and schedule. Those are the three that I want us to focus on. So minimum weather I've actually been setting to a higher standard in previous turns to make sure that the AI wasn't able to execute air doctrines which then would have caused very high operational losses. So I've gone through and I've actually already changed all of these to minimum weather to poor. But to change them, you simply click here and you can go through and select different weather conditions. And we're going to say that at minimum, the weather has to be poor. And I think our current weather conditions are going to qualify us for this to work. Intensity goes from low, medium to high. I want to keep these on low for now. Again, we're dipping our toes into the pool, right? We're not going to jump in just one turn and commit all of our airframes. If for no other reason than the fact that the pilots we have probably are not terribly experienced, given the fact they've been grounded for the last 3 or 4 months, right? It's these guys, while they might have some training going on, we need to get them more accustomed to flying actual sorties. So intensity is going to be low, and then we have schedule. So please remember that each turn in the game is 1 week, 7 days. And for each of these air groups, or excuse me, air missions, you can actually set the schedule of which days you would like them to execute on. It's usually pretty standard to do recon for either 2 or 3 days a week, giving you a bit of a glimpse of where things might be at the beginning and the end of each turn. So we're going to choose to run all of these recon missions on the 2nd day of the week and the 6th day of the week, giving us kind of a look at the beginning of the turn and the end of the turn where everything ended up. We're also going to look at the Superiority Mission, because I want us to start running some Superiority missions, and I've actually changed the minimum weather on our fighters to all, meaning that they're going to keep running even if we have a slight worsening of weather conditions, and I'll be keeping an eye on the weather forecast to see when we need to switch this back to a higher setting to prevent high operational losses. And with air superiority, you're normally running these 7 days a week because when ground attacks happen, right, they might be happening over multiple days, and you want to make sure if you're trying to counter the enemy's ground support that you have full coverage there, right? So that's why these are all set to 7 days. This last column, percent to fly, is set at 20. This is just saying, okay, on day 1, I'm going to have 20% of my airframes flying, right, for this particular mission. So we're going to start with just recon and superiority. We're not going to touch anything else right now. And I've already done all those settings in the background. We had gone through in one of the first turns and actually allocated the different priorities for each of the air army groups. We are going to do a bit of a review, though, to make sure that all the settings here, for example, for hold, flexible, retreat, advance, are still the same. So a quick recap for you on those, actually. So hold means the AI is not going to move these units forward in their air bases nor backwards, right? They're going to stay exactly where they are in terms of airframes and air bases. When we look at flexible, this means that the AI will either move them forward or backwards depending on how the attached front or army front's HQ is moving, right? So if the HQ is moving up, the air army will follow up if it's on flexible. Retreat means that it's just going to consistently move in the rear for various air bases, and this is an uncommon setting for us right now because we're going to be on the offensive for much of the entire video series. And then lastly is advance, which means it's just always going to try to find the air bases that are closest to the front line to operate out of. I'm going to probably change some of these, though. For example, the 6th Air Army, I'm going to change to advance because we are actually seeing advancements here along the Lake Ilmen front, and we're about to have a breakout. So I want to make sure the 6th Army stays up near the front instead of in the rears. The 3rd Air Army, we're also going to set this to advance because they are responsible for the Adritsa and portions of the Smolensk pocket, and we have made a lot of strides there, so we need to start moving these Air Army groups closer towards the front. And the 3rd Air Army is one of the larger that we have. The 1st Air Army is going to be, oh, it's already set to advance, so we're good there. Long Range Air Command we're not going to touch. 15th Air Army, they're on flexible, and I think we can probably move them to an advance because they're going to start pushing much more, and they do technically cover Orel. Right here, they're already on advance. Scroll out to help us navigate around. 17th, 8th Air Army, right, these were all part of the Stalingrad front. So we need to start moving these up, and they were on hold. So we're going to change their statuses. They were already on advance, which then probably means we need to make sure the HQ units, right, are moving up from Stalingrad. 2nd Air Army, we're going to change them to advance. And their box is stretched out for their area of operation so far because we were doing a lot of air resupply, air transport down here near the Caucasus front near Crimea when we were really suffering. 16th Air Army's on advance, so that's good. 4th Air Army advance, and 5th Air Army is also advance. Okay. So now that we've gone through and taken care of some of that administrative work, we're now going to go ahead and execute the air planning phase. So let's see how this goes. Let's cross your fingers that we don't have 200 operational losses of recon planes due to cold air weather. Let's see what actually ends up happening here. So day 1, we're not expecting to have anything, so recon's just running day 2 and day 6. We're on night 2, and here's day 2, and you can hear the recon units moving. So we have 277 sorties that ran, and a total of 40 losses that were to operations, and 13 losses that were to flak and air combat. So that's much more reasonable in terms of losses, and I'm quite happy about that result. We'll see now in day 6 what that looks like. So here we end up with 450 sorties run, 66 losses in total. That's not too bad, especially now that we're going to have much better reconnaissance of where some of these elements are behind the front lines. This is the air execution phase summary where you can go through and you can see for each air army, right, of the sorties run, how many had losses, all of those different questions. Close out of that, and now we dive right into our ground campaign, which was our starting point for most previous episodes given the poor weather. So now we're in Leningrad, in that pocket, and we need to see where are we going to advance. So we had pushed them out of this hex previously, and it's been a bit of a back and forth affair. We're going to keep the pressure on them and push through. Please note that I do still have ground support off, and you can always see that in this top bar, GS equals off. If we did want to turn it on, we would go over here to this icon for toggling it on or off, which is also done by the short key X. Back to the ground combat though. I want to take my 1st Rifle Corps, and we will also have the 136th Rifle Division. And we're going to go ahead and do a deliberate attack here on this hex. And they retreated. Now the 7th Rifle Corps, we don't quite have enough to move up there, but this 56th Rifle Division, we do. So I'm actually going to move up the 56th Rifle Division into that hex. And I think we might see if we can't take one of these units as well, like the 127th. Doesn't look like they can make it, though. Nor can that Rifle Division. So let's see if we take that Rifle Division off the line. And we're going to move in, I think, the 189th Rifle Division to get ready to maybe support that unit. Okay. So currently their defensive value is 2 versus 9, so that's less than ideal. Let's see if we can get some support units there. And let's assign to them the, I'm thinking the 3rd Guards Heavy Tank Regiment, which adds a little bit to their defensive value. And I did that because they have this 4th SS Panzer Grenadier Division. And I'm hopeful that even if they do attack, we can at the very least, I'm hopeful, inflict some heavy losses on their armor elements. So that's why I attached the heavy tank regiment to that unit. Looking over here, we see, ooh, I could actually maybe bring up that 256. No, that pushes them to exhaustion, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to get them over there. And that then really helps this defensive position where now we're looking at a defensive value of 6, which means the 2 units they have in these neighboring hexes would not be enough to push us out of that hex. That did raise us from 0 fatigue to 38 though, so it's worth noting that came at a price. Okay. I think then we will also take the 115th, and I don't know, I want to see how all of this plays out first before I do that. We might have to take one of these HQs and actually move them up. Let's see where the depots are supplying all these units out of. Yeah, so I think, anyways, I'm going to move it over here. Yeah, very good. And you guys can probably stay there. Turn off all those overlays. We can move you to that hex for refit. That should help you refit faster. Now we have 2 hexes that we probably have a good chance at breaking through, and we may even be able to accomplish both in the same turn. And that is the 9th Panzer Division and the 168th Infantry Division. I think first I want to make sure we get rid of that Panzer Division, so we're going to attack there right off the bat. And we did push them back. Look at those losses. I'm so happy about that. We're going to do a quick recap there. Let's see. Ground losses. Yeah, look at this. So 5 Tigers were destroyed, another 3 damaged, and 3 disrupted. So between damaged and destroyed, they now have half as many Tigers as they had previously. That means so much in our war effort. They had 3-to-1 losses in armor compared to us, and we were the attacking force. So that's a very, very good win for us. Let's now see if we don't have enough to push through here, and it is 4-to-1 odds, so we should be able to. Yep, and we force them to retreat. And I think we might take that rifle division and look to maybe swap it out with one of these units. Most of these are actually doing pretty okay, though. Fatigue is getting a little high. It's getting a little high. Especially right here. But that exhausts you if I move you back, so maybe we won't do that. 116th Guard is the same situation. Okay, so we're going to have to leave them as is, I think. But we have plenty of defensive value in these hexes to sit there. And now, right, now the German player is forced to say that they have 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes to defend, and currently they have nothing to defend with. It probably would have been interesting to see if we didn't push on this unit, if we instead would have taken all of these stacks and attacked here. Yeah, we wouldn't have had enough, so our best bet is to try to force them to withdraw, knowing that we've now kind of surrounded them a little. All right. Continuing on the line here, we don't stand any chance against this hex where they have the 8th Panzer and the 69th Infantry Division. I'm assuming they're going to split up a couple of these and move them over. It does actually look like they've brought up some armor elements here in the last turn. Not a ton, but some it looks like they have brought up. So we're just going to continue holding the line right here. We're perfectly fine doing that. Over here we have 38 for defensive value. And that is quite high, but the reason I want to take a look at it is they've moved in the LAH SS Panzer Grenadier Division, 14th Motorized. So in total, they have, call it 70 offensive value, and we have 38 defensive. So they don't quite have 2-to-1 in terms of odds. I think we're going to be okay to stay there as we are. The one question would be, so we actually started moving a lot of these units down to try to help with this breakout south of Lake Ilmen, which is going to stall a little because they've done a really good job of coming in to try to reinforce this. But look how demonstrative this is of why we want it to break through north and south of Lake Ilmen. They've now had to build this entire wall of defense that previously did not have to exist because they could hold us here and here, north and south of that geography. I think all along the line here, we may simply hold the position because we are accomplishing what we wanted, and that was to stretch their forces like this. So we'll leave all of that just as it is. Looking now south of Lake Ilmen, I do want to take a look here too to see battle results because, yeah, they did attack here and they took that hex. So let's see. So the first attack, they threw 5 infantry divisions at us and we managed to hold. We had 3 infantry divisions there. Losses were pretty much equal. On the second attack, they used the Wiking SS Panzergrenadier Division, which was enough to push us back entirely. The good news is this Panzergrenadier Division really is hurting. Look at their armor elements. They only have 20 left in total. And that is not the normal complement for a Panzergrenadier Division. All right. So that's some good news at least. And while we did lose 2,000 men and 60 guns, it's nothing devastating to us. And them taking that hex again, it doesn't really... That hex itself does not have any strategic importance to us at all. Absolutely none. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue building out our little bubble of our advance here. And we're going to take this unit up. And we'll take the 220th up there. We'll move the 188th there. Take the 170th up here. And I think the 123rd Guards will also go up here. So this is now plenty to be able to hold these hexes. And we may even be able to push through here. Yeah, this is 3-1, so we're going to press. And they retreat it. Good news. Good news indeed. Now you see there that there was actually some air combat involved. So let's take a look at that. So the Germans had 37 fighters. We had quite a few more, probably 3-1 odds. But we lost significantly more than they did. Note that none of our losses were operational. They were all air-to-air, which means these Bf-109Gs just kicked our butt. Now, let's take a look at the Air Combat tab. And here you will see the reason why. These Bf-10G air groups, look at their skill level of their pilots. And pilots matter so much in air combat that these skill levels are so high. That's why they had... Well, let's just do a quick recap here. They suffered 2 losses, and we suffered 74 losses. That is so insanely high. I'm struggling even with the math. That's 37-1 kills. For each one they lost, they killed 37. That's astonishing. And one of the reasons they were in the sky is they were trying to do some ground support with these bombers. These units were escorting them, and we tried to intercept. And the combination of trying to intercept them plus these units that were on patrol caused some pretty heavy losses for us. The only ones that actually even did... So this column is damage received. This column is damage dealt. So the only unit that even did a single hit on a single one of their airframes was this Hurricane 2. We had 10 of them, and now we have none of them. Ouch. That is unfortunate. This group right here, skill level 9912 Bf-109Gs, had 30 kills. It's astonishing. And that's going to be pretty consistent. I mean, there isn't a whole lot we can do about that, aside from rest assured that we have so many more airframes, and they do not have an unlimited supply of pilots at these skill levels. You will find as we go through, we're probably going to run into air army groups that are supporting their ground units, where we'll look at this column and we'll see their skill levels are 60 or 70. And there you will see that the ratio of kills to losses is drastically different. Moving on, though, because we can get pretty caught up in that pretty easily. Let's see where else we want to press an advantage. Back here, these units are all on refit, so we're not going to touch them. They are not on refit, so I think we're just going to leave them right where they are. And what we want to do now is try to push through here and here to put some pressure on them. So we're going to attack this stack first. They retreated. Again, look at those air losses, right? 68. And I think we will take our artillery and we'll move them back here. And let's now take the 182nd Rifle Division, move them up. So we're going to include the artillery in our selection here for the deliberate attack, and this gives us more than 3-1 odds. 100,000 men attacking 15,000. So we were quite successful there for reasons that should be pretty obvious. We're not going to move into those 2 hexes, though, because otherwise we just open ourselves up to a very easy counterattack once again. I don't know. Yeah, we're going to move this unit back, and we're going to move up to the line, this rifle division that's just doing a little better in terms of its current state. So that helps build up our defensive value here. All right. This stack, actually, though, we might move them up here. I think that might make sense to move them here. So let's do that. So defensive value of about 20 versus their 20 offensive value. So we should be quite good there. Down over here, we have an option to move into this hex where they have 15 offensive value. And I think we will move up there. And then we're going to take this stack and have them attack this weaker unit here where we have 2-to-1 odds. And we routed them. So that's pretty good for just 2-to-1 odds. So they must have already been suffering quite a bit from previous engagements. These units are all on refit. That's fine. You, we can probably move up, because you are in great condition. And then we will take some of the stronger units from here and move them up to support. I think that would include the 163rd. Oh, you don't have enough, so defensive value is fine, though 23 compared to their 20. So we don't necessarily need to move more up. And now, again, right, they had 1 victory. We have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That kind of says it all, right? Every 1 victory they have, we have 5. Not from a air war perspective, though. I mean, my goodness, look at some of those numbers. Again, we lost 30, they lost 3. And it's going to be the exact same story. Look at those skill levels. My goodness. Here we had the LA5Fs get 3 kills in total, so that's good. Unfortunately, we lost pretty much all of them. So that is not so good. But we have many more where those came from. Let's continue on down the line. And here we see, because of our recon, we actually see they have elements that are in the rear here, that they have some units in Peskov, etc. Yeah. Okay. Not going to be able to break through here. That's fine. We could maybe... No, we wouldn't even have 2-to-1 there. So we're going to leave that be. Up here, we would have 2-to-1 if we attack the 253rd Infantry. Let's see how these units are faring, though. Their fatigue is a little on the higher side, and you are getting pretty low in terms of men, so I'm guessing your TOE is pretty bad. Yeah, it's not great. What about this stack? You're doing better. Certainly doing better. Yeah, I don't know if we want to press that. I think we will. 2-to-1, let's do it. And they retreat it. Okay. So now let's see if we need to move anything up to help reinforce those units. You're at 17 defensive value. You are at about 16 versus 20, so you're probably okay as is. Maybe we take one of the more fatigued units, like the 7th Guard. No, that's going to exhaust you to move back. Move out that 186. And instead we'll move up this Rifle Brigade in its place. Yeah, I think that's good. Up here, you're now down to 5,800 men, so we're going to move you back. And I think we will take... we'll take this Rifle Brigade and move them up. Yeah, let's do that. So that helps reinforce them again. Good. Good. Back here, we've got a unit on refit, the 13th Rifle Corps. Let's see how your replenishment's been going. That's good. You were much worse than this previously. You're almost at 70% across the board. So that's really good news. And it probably helps because of the supply priority. They're sitting on the HQ. It's not a depot, but still sitting on the HQ, and that really helps. Down here, it actually looks like they've pulled back their forces, because I don't think we didn't take these the previous turn. They still have their fortification levels. So the question is, do we want to push into that hex? And I think we will. I think we'll take advantage of that situation and move up. So now their defensive value is still quite strong. And we will also move up here, I think with this stack of the 1st Tank Army Tank Corps. And when we do that, we will then attack into light woods against an infantry division and drive them backwards. See, saying that aloud makes me really hesitant to do it. So instead we're going to take the Rifle Corps and the 397th Rifle Division here, and we're going to have them attack, which is 2 to 1. And we rout at them. Okay. See, I like that a lot better. And I think we'll move you up then another hex. Defensive value of 30 versus their, 8 offensive. So now you see we're starting to really threaten a breakout here. We could go even further. Should we go further? Should we cut off this rail line? That's tempting. But we're going to hold. We're going to hold right where we are. Here, this Rifle Division, you're on refit, but we can probably take you off refit because you're looking pretty darn good. Yeah, 90%. You're fine. You're fine. Time to get back to the front, comrade. Let's push through here against the Security Division. 7 to 1. So they both retreat it. And yeah, so they're pretty dug in here. Pretty dug in. Defensive value in this hex is getting a little low now. We're only at 15 versus their 31. So I think we might take like this tank corps and move them back off the line. And instead pull up this Rifle Division. Okay. Let's see as well if we have any support units that can come in and help. And because we're sitting next to a Panzer Division, we're going to add the 765th Anti-Tank Regiment. We're also going to go to the 1st Shock Army and see if you have any anti-tank. We're actually going to assign to you, looking at it, the 121st Rifle Brigade. I think that would by far be the most useful. And then the 8th Rifle Corps, part of the 3rd Shock Army, we will attach to you the 389th Anti-Tank Regiment and the 170th Separate Tank Battalion. So that completely changes the dynamic of this force, much for the better. I think it will really help. Over here, we have plenty to defend against the 18th Panzer, so I'm not worried there. Question is, do we take this stack and move up at the hex that they've retreated out of? They have 31 combined attack value if we do. And because of that Rifle Corps, I think we're going to be able to handle it. So let's take all of you and move up. Now, part of this 1st Shock Army, we're going to attach to this Rifle Corps, the 708th Tank Regiment, Anti-Tank Regiment, excuse me. And I think we're also going to do the 641st. So now that really helps with their defense against the 7th Panzer. Yeah, that adds 2 defensive value just in the anti-tank. And they're sitting at 30. So, good news there. Down here, oh boy, you are kind of surrounded. We have call it 9, maybe 10, versus 30. So that's not so great, is it? We have the 4th Guards Army, which we had moved over from Stalingrad. And I don't know if any of those units in the rear are any better off than we are here. I wonder... Yeah, you're not doing so great either in terms of defensive value add. These rifle divisions, we're going to move them down. Though they won't be able to get there in time, we'll move them down here. Maybe we do take one of you off, though. Let's take off the 120th, and let's put in there instead the 298th. And then we're going to take off the 948 and move in the 84th Rifle Division. Okay, so that brings us up to about 12. Let's now see if there are support units that can help. Not really. We could add the 10th Tank Brigade, but I don't know how much help that's going to do us against a onslaught of 6 infantry divisions. We already have a tank brigade attached to you. So I think we might leave you just as you are, in the hopes that they say, ooh, yeah, we have to take a defensive posture here because we're really outnumbered. I think that will be our game plan. Looking across the line, here we're at about 15. We can handle that. You're doing okay. What I'd really like to do is maybe take that rifle division off the line. So let's move you back there. And then we're going to bring up the 233rd Rifle Division instead. Yeah, so that brings us close to 20 now. We're going to take the 117th. No, we're going to take the 233rd and have them force out that security division. And they rout it. So good news. More and more good news. I'm loving it. Really am loving it. Here we've got almost 3-1. I think we're going to press. And we were successful. Good. So now we only have to worry in this hex about a counterattack from here, unless they move up other units, of course. And we still have 13, which is a 1-to-1 odd. Over here we have... Yeah, we're a little worse off over here. Can the 23rd Tank Corps get out of there, maybe? And then... Yeah, let's take the Tank Corps out, and we're going to move up the 49th Rifle Division. And both of these Tank Corps, we're actually just going to move back and replace them with infantry divisions. Right? Infantry to defend, armor to attack. I think that's how we want to play that. And we're starting to get pretty well south of Idritsa, and we're not getting too much progress heading west, which obviously they recognize the value of defending the western line and leaving maybe the south a little more open. So I'm not terribly surprised by that development. Over here you see they've had a couple of infantry divisions break through our line. Again, really not worried about it. Just not terribly concerned. I think what we will do is take like the 40... Yeah, let's take this entire... So they are actually the ones at risk of encirclement. Let's take this entire stack here. No, all of you need to go to refit status. That's what all of you need to do. So we're going to take you off the line even further. And like this rifle division here, you can come up here. Yeah. Thinking this tank corps I'm going to move up here. Oh no, you were in refit. I forgot about that. You're moving over here. Shoot. That was my mistake. I forgot they'd taken some pretty heavy losses in a previous turn. That's my mistake. So we need to be a little more tactical here than with what we're doing. So we're going to move up this 42nd guard. And we will also take the 251st up here. You are going to fall back, sir. You are going to retreat. We are going to move over here. You are going to sit on your HQ and go into refit status. We will do the same with you. So they are all now on refit. We're going to divert. Are we? Maybe we're not going to. No, we're going to keep the 4th Guards Army focused on coming up here, I think. I think that's going to be for the best. So let's move some of these elements up. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna let these guys be, honestly. I mean, if one infantry division's just making their way north here, okay. I'm really not bothered by it. Yeah, you can just stay there, I think. Let's see if the 43rd Army has any support units that might help. Yeah, we're going to attach this ski battalion. And to you, we will also attach a ski battalion. So now their defensive value is jumped up to 26. Hell, actually now if we attack, it's 2 to 1. We're going to wait, keep that guy kind of cut off a little. Down here, the 6th Stalin Rifle Corps, maybe we move up and help press a little. Or do we just have them go in behind? Yeah, I think we continue pushing in behind these guys, and I think that's the best defense against them, is just make them fear being completely cut off. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay. I'm going to move up the artillery unit here, I think. And what do they have here? The 61st Infantry. I think we're going to take these 3 stacks and attack them. Nope, don't have enough there. Oh, their defense value is 25. Okay, that explains that. Alright. Over here, yeah, you guys are on refit, so you're fine staying on refit status there. Mechanized Corps, how far are you from a good spot? Yeah, you still need a ways. Okay, very well. I think we're going to leave you guys right where you're at because you're still pretty well dug in. You two, I worry a little bit about you mostly. Yeah, you. Is there anything we can attach to you to try to help? They don't have any armor in there, so we're not going to waste that anti-tank regiment, I don't think. Yeah, we're going to leave them be. And with any luck here, we'll be able to cut off both the 251st and the 167th Infantry Division. So, I mean, what are they going to do? Capture another hex of swamp? Okay, I'm cool with that. That's fine. You guys do you. Time to move up the 2nd Tank Army that we had recently brought in. So we'll get all of these guys moving up. And this is, of course, hurting their fatigue, right, by not moving on the rail line. Or moving via rail, I should rephrase that, I suppose. But as a consequence of that, we're not having supply issues down here, which is Very important. Wow, their fuel is getting low, though. Okay. There is that. Let's see where these guys were getting resupplied from. Yeah, kind of a mixture of these two. But now we have the HQ in this depot, and I'm hoping they start to get then supplied by that depot. Supply priority was 4, right? Yep, okay. And we need to switch the 2nd Tank Army to being part of the Kalinin front. So that should help a little too. Take off the supply depot overlay. Alright. Rail repair, everyone's favorite topic. So let's see kind of an overview here. Don't know that it makes too much sense to prioritize that, but certainly I think it makes sense to prioritize getting these rails repaired. So we're going to keep moving them here. Alright. We're going to be at a bit of a halt there unless I move some of you off. Yeah, I think it's going to be worth it to move you back. And then let's take the, 48th Mechanized here, bring you there. And now we can take our rail repair unit all the way into Smolensk. Although because we're now entering zone of controls, we can't actually make it there, so we're going to retreat back. And I think we'll just bring up that tank core. Now, our rail situation, right, we're going to have those repaired. If we can continue pushing these guys out, that should mean in the next turn or two we can repair all of these, which will be immensely helpful to then have the east-west connection and the connection north to Moscow. So let's now go about trying to break through. We take all of you in attack. It's not quite 2 to 1. We take all of you in attack. That's 2 to 1. So let's do that. Oh no, they held. Shoot. That's not good. It's not good. Take you. We're certainly not going to have enough. So let's now move out like the 53rd Rifle Division. We're going to take off the line. From there. We'll move up the 17th Rifle Corps. Second Tank Corps can maybe come up and help. Or the 8th Tank Corps, excuse me. Let's see now what this looks like. No, we're going to give it a shot. Okay, and I'm glad we did because we forced them out. 7th Panzer Division retreat it, 78th Sturm rout it. Question is now, do we find ourselves in a defensible position? Not really. So we might have to actually pull back now that we've had that success. Or risk getting this unit kind of cut off a little. What if we just rotate out some of the weaker units like the 82nd here? Let's bring you back to that HQ spot. And what if we then take like the 164th and move you up? And let's review what we have for support units. Nope, nothing to be done there. Nothing to be done there. And the 29th Army we just checked, I think. Yep. Nothing. I think we can probably take even and leave it. Okay, yeah. Are we okay here? Let's see, are we okay? We are not okay. Shoot. You are hurting. How do we solve that problem? So I'm wondering if we take the 1st Guard Cavalry and move them up there. So let's take the weakest thing we have, which is going to be the 9th Tank Corps, and move them back here. And then we're going to take the 1st Guards Cavalry and move them up. So that adds significantly to our defense. Now we're sitting there at, call it 17 defensive value, versus their 44, if I did the math right. So they do have 2 to 1. Let's see if we can further enhance the position by looking at support units. I'm assuming if they do attack, they'll attack with armor, and these guys are already hurting, but let's attach the, or TOE, excuse me, is already hurting. Let's attach an anti-tank regiment. We're also going to attach an AA regiment in case they use ground support in their counterattack. And then we'll see what you have. Yeah, let's add another anti-tank regiment to you. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Boy, things are a little hairy here. We captured Smolensk, but it has not been terribly easy in the hexes surrounding Smolensk. I wonder if we have anything that can make it to Smolensk proper to help reinforce that hex. No, not looking like it. Could maybe move one of you down. No? What if we take the 1/10th here? Yeah, let's take the 1/10th Rifle Division down. Defensively, we're perfectly fine against the 61st Infantry Division there. So that ensures we will have plenty in Smolensk proper. Good. Good news. Over here, I don't think we'll be able to push against that hex. Defensively, you're okay. You might have arguably too much over here. So let's take 29th Guard and move you down the line. And rather similarly here, let's move the 18th Guard over. Move you over there. So defense value 6 versus 7 will be just fine. And now we look to continue breaking out. Let's take these 2 stacks and push 7 to 1. So let's take a look at the battle results there to see again how the air campaign was kind of going. So here their numbers were much more losses. I mean, that's more than 1/3 of their fighters that they lost, and they lost about 1/3 of their fighter bombers. So that's really encouraging. When we look at this, they lost 6 BF-109s, JU-88s, they lost 10 of DO-217s, they lost 8. And when we look at the air combat, you see here, right, this is the difference. All of these are not 99, 98. There's some 80s, there's some 70s. And those are the units that took losses. The exception being these bombers, but that's because our air superiority intercepted the bombers without enough of a patrol escort of BF-109s. So they had 3 here, we killed 2. They had 12 here, we killed 4. Which then left open all of our fighters to attack bombers. Right, and when we look at ground losses, when we look at the Soviet section for us, here we can see what effect their ground support had. So they destroyed 3 anti-tank rifle elements, 2 anti-tank 45mm guns, 1 vehicle, and 1 support element. That's not too bad. In terms of, we did not take heavy losses, is what I'm trying to convey there. But they took pretty heavy losses in terms of fighter pilots with good skill, right? 2/3 of this element with a skill of 97 were eliminated, which means we don't have to deal with them in the next phases. Here they lost 4 because their skill is only 73. So I think that worked out quite nicely for us. Let's continue looking for areas to break out. I'm really tempted to try to move into this hex, but yeah, we don't have enough again. We could probably take the tank cores and get there though, but we're not going to. Looking down, yeah, those tank cores feels like we should do something with them. We're going to let their combat prep get a little higher. And on that note, maybe I pull one of them off to build up combat prep. I think that might make sense. So let's pull you back. And then we'll pull back the 12th tank corps as well. So by not being across the enemy foxhole to foxhole, right, they're going to build up better combat preparation points faster. Here we have 14 to 8, not quite enough. Probably would have been enough, we would have kept the tank corps, but that's a different conversation to reflect upon later. Hindsight's 2020. Here we have 15 to 13, not enough. Continuing down into our route, here we had huge gains in the previous turn. Don't have enough to break through here. But what we will do is we'll take this stack of rifle divisions and we're going to move them forward. And I think we're even going to have them attack 2 to 1 here against this Jaeger division. And they retreated. So that was a good win for us. Let's now take a look at maybe pulling off the line, like this rifle division. And we will reinforce that stack with this rifle division, right? Just a little bit of shuffling of units to keep everyone happy. Down here we can attack here, here, maybe even here, maybe not. Let's focus just on this hex for now. So that's 3 to 1. That was successful. No, it wasn't successful. Sorry, they held. That's shocking. So let's take a look at that. So obviously air war came into effect there. And I think what the difference was is their ground support was a little more effective than it was in the previous operations. And that's because our patrol aircraft weren't able to break through to the bombers, right? So they lost 3 BF-109s and then they lost 2 aircraft to flak and 2 to operations. Whereas we lost 17, 21, 20, 16, 47. My goodness. But this all comes back to their fighters, again, all being 98, 97, etc., etc. And it is painful. Oh my gosh, it is painful, but we just kind of have to chip away at those pilots, those aces that they have. We don't have a terrible amount of options. And as you saw, right, the fighters, they're never going to run into flak because they're not on the ground trying to help. Now let's take a look at ground losses and see how much that air support helped them. Oh my goodness, yes. This is exactly why they won that battle. We lost, let's see, 19 rifle squads to air combat. We lost 4 of these machine guns, 8 of these anti-tank rifles, 4 of these mortars, 4 of these field guns, 4 of these anti-tank guns, 3 infantry guns, 12 support, 3 vehicles, AA guns, rocket launcher, just you name it. We suffered heavy casualties to the ground support that they put out there. And that really kind of says it all, honestly. That's why we lost. So maybe if we would have had our ground support enabled, we could have... No, I would take that back. I would argue that if we had ground support enabled, all it would have done would have increased how many airframes those fighters killed. Imagine those units that were on patrol, how many bombers they could have destroyed if we had also thrown them at the problem. So, first I think we have to get air superiority to some extent. I don't know as the Soviet player at this stage in the war if you are going to achieve it, but we have to at least improve the situation, I feel. Looking down here in Arel, it is so tempting to move up, and I think we might actually, like with this stack here, if we move you here, and then if we take this stack and move them here, and then this stack comes into Arel proper. Now we can sit there and we can go, oh, let's counterattack here. They retreat it. Let's counterattack here. Great success. We take both of these now. It's just 1-to-1. Okay. We don't have enough to attack here. All right. So defensively, we should be fine, but we did kind of push them a little hard there. But I think it worked out well. Now what we're going to do is just kind of this chain of these units moving down. Don't want to take the construction brigade. Move you. I think we'll move you guys there. Yeah, let's take you and push here. So they were pushed back. And let's do the same here. Right, so by routing them, that really helps too, because then they can't be used in a counterattack. I'm actually going to take this stack to attack, I think. 10-to-1, route it again. Right, good news. Don't have enough to break through in the corner hex yet. That's okay, though. And I think here, now that we've kind of finished up operations in and around Harel, I think we're going to call the episode to a close. Had a lot going on, and adding in those air elements certainly extend the length of the episode. It is scary to say, but my goodness, we may get to a point of having 3 episodes per turn in some instances, because I really don't want to shortchange you on anything that's happening. My only other option would be to do more and more stuff off camera, and then try to summarize it. So I think we're going to continue to monitor how long these episodes go, because it'll be a push to get us in an hour through the rest of our ground combat phase of turn 19. And we haven't even touched on our own ground support yet, so there's a lot still to come. I want to say thank you as always for watching the video and the series. Should you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please add them in the comments section below, and I will do my best to address them. And as always, strategy gamers, hope you have a great day. Bye now.